Please welcome to the stage your MC, Michael Meneer.
Wow! Good morning. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here. I'm Mike Meneer. I'm the CEO of the Pacific Salmon Foundation, and we've had the pleasure of organizing this conference for you and with many of you. And I have to tell you, just seeing you all here, this conference is already a huge success because yesterday and today I'm already seeing so many people I don't know. And I'm looking forward to meeting you and learning from you and hearing all about your work. We are so pleased to be hosting all of you, more than 450 of you, at the very first BC Salmon Recovery and Resilience Conference. I want to thank you for your passion and for your dedication to salmon. And over the next 2 days, you're going to be hearing from more than 100 speakers participating in our keynotes here starting this morning, and then a number of breakout sessions that we have planned for you that cover the whole range of topics related to salmon recovery and resilience. So I want to begin by thanking each of you. Salmon is complex. We know there are challenges, and we know that we're pulled in many different directions, and that probably the most precious thing that we have to offer is our time. And so you've taken the time to come here, many of you from afar, and I want to thank you for that time that you're giving to us, and I promise to you it's going to be well spent over the next couple days. And I want to thank our speakers, all of our presenters. Again, many have come from far and wide. Thank you for your time, for being here. So please, a round of applause for all of our speakers that we're going to be hearing from for the next couple of days. We value the inherent and long-standing, unique relationship that Indigenous people have with salmon. And we're looking forward over these next couple days learning from Indigenous elders and youth who are a part of this conference. So to start us off in a positive, healthy, and good way today, I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Calvin Charlie-Dawson from the Squamish Nation to lead us in a land welcome. Thank you.
Hat squad tanoyap, hat nat, ans constant, Calvin Queensna, chinachin tlat, quest okumel, antra bokunwantum, quistlak nomo titsis tnam, to highs to mel, chit to Squamish off okumel, a tewa okumel, tanoyap wak hosum titsits, and a pacals okumel, ne tewa okumel, quis nantum, to quetsi, it's on kach same smart, nath pakwe. Amen. And state quins, when Alex Tomo thought a quetsi okumel, ne hwai okumel, a hitnama okumel, on shake okumel, a tewa, amen. To kama okumel, teat seats. Trinkum and tomia, quis clack nomo, a clacks yap to you want hot squallowing, a tufnam to high sate sat, tufnam to soakwe chit, quis. Te with and tomothas to west mars to soakwe. Trinkum and tomia, tufnam to quetsi tight. Chint lolam to one, titsis tufnam to a squall yap, a quis pick same to you want hot squallowing. Trinkum and tomia, a quis clack nomen on one else tomia to you want hot sates up, to high sates up. Trinkum and tomi. So that means good morning in Squamish. So good morning, everyone. My name is Calvin Dawson. I am a descendant of the Squamish Nation as well as the Stalo Nations of the Fraser Valley region on my mother's side, and a descendant of the Kwakwaka'wakw Nation on my father's side. I'm here to welcome each and every one of you today to the traditional territories here of the Squamish and our neighbors to the south of the Musqueam and our neighbors to the east of the Tsleil-Waututh. Welcome each and every one of you to the beautiful territory we have here in Vancouver today. The village that you reside on, or the placement that you reside on here currently at this site, is what we know is what's known as pakals. And pakals means a white-faced or a white-faced rock. And it was believed at the shores of this site here, there was a great number of white-faced pebbles on the floor, on the sea floor there that led up to the beach. And it was said that they were really good for rolling your canoes and landing your canoes on. Another notable village that we always pay homage to when we do land remarks within the Greater Vancouver region is the village of Hwai Hwai, which is now known as Lumberman's Arch in Stanley Park. Many of my descendants, or many of my ancestors descend from that village, and one of my more distant, not so distant relatives was one of the last people to be displaced from that village of Hwai Hwai from Lumberman's Arch to the village of Capilano just across the water here. The Greater Vancouver area, which we now call, or what we call Vancouver today, would have been called what we in our language we call Kamkamalai, which means place of many maple trees, as the shores here and into the harbor was home to a great grove of maple trees. So we also like to acknowledge that. Once again, just on behalf of the Squamish Nation, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to the territory here, and welcome each and every one of you to Vancouver. Open up your day with a song. It is our teachings and our ways of culture that we open our days. We open up our days with a prayer almost, in the ways that we're taught from our ancestors and the creators. That song, drumming, and singing, they all go hand in hand with prayer, and they're all one of the same thing. And another aspect of that is that we believe it's the belief you have in that prayer that makes that prayer work, that makes that prayer drive your day forward, and fills up your heart with good feelings. And it's the belief you have in that prayer that makes it work for you. So with that, we also say you pray to who you believe in. If you're a person of God, if you're a Catholic, a Christian of any sorts, you pray to your God. If you're a Buddhist, if you're Buddhist, or you're a Hindu of the Hindu religion, if you're a believer in science and all the numbers and the particles, you pray to those particles and everything like that. It's the belief you have in that prayer that fills your heart with those good feelings, and that starts your day off in that good way. The song I'll sing for you today is actually a song from the village of Hwai Hwai, which is now Lumberman's Arch. The song we call it today is Sihualia Slolum. It's Aunt Sally's song. Her ancestral name is Sihualia. We also call it Greeting the Day, which is very fitting because today I'll be starting off your day with this song and prayer, and it's a song to sing in the morning. So this is Sihualia Slolum. So once again, Chinko Tomia, Quistlak Nomot Seats, on behalf of the Squamish Nation, welcoming each and every one of you and thanking you for the beautiful work that we do, and paying homage and respect to the life of the salmon, as the MC said, you know, respecting that relationship that Indigenous people have with the salmon and the people of the world have with the salmon. It's a long story of the Squamish people. At the beginning of time, our ancestors made a pact and an homage with the salmon people, because we believe that before humans walked the earth, this land was ruled by the animal kingdom, and under the sea world was led by the salmon people, and we made an agreement with them that if we return each and every one of their Sminhim, what we call Sminhim, are the descendants, back to their waters, and we don't overfish, that they'll continuously come back to nourish the land and to nourish the people of the world. So once again, thanking each and every one of you for respecting those ways that we all have as people with the sea kingdom, and paying homage and respect to that contract, spiritual contract we made at the beginning of time with the salmon people. So once again, Trinkum and Tomia. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you very much, Calvin, for getting us started in a great way and for sharing that history and background with us. It is inspiring, and we'll get this conference started on exactly the right foot. And to help us also start the conference in a good way, I'm really honored to introduce somebody that I consider a mentor, and that I have gotten to build a very close relationship with over the last several years. Jordan Point, I was looking at my calendar yesterday, Jordan, and it was almost exactly 3 years ago that Murray, Ned, and you and I had a phone call about this idea that Murray had around a salmon summit and trying to bring people together because we all need to be working together. And it's taken us a few years, but those few years have been very fruitful. The learnings that we've encountered at PSF from First Nations Fisheries Council, from Jordan, and from Stu, who I'll introduce in a bit, have really been tremendously helpful and inspiring to us as a non-Indigenous organization. So it's a real pleasure for me to introduce Jordan Point, who's coming today in his capacity as a counselor for the Musqueam First Nation. He's also going to lead us in a land welcome. But this is also a way for all of us who respect and love Jordan to say thank you, because after more than 10 years leading the First Nations Fisheries Council, Jordan has quote-unquote retired. And he made a huge impact, I know, for FNFC. He's made a huge impact on PSF and certainly for me, building partnerships and collaborations for salmon and for the many Indigenous communities that have such a tight relationship with salmon. So please join me in welcoming Jordan Point from the Musqueam Nation. You're welcome. Thank you.
HULCM, Siaya, Aitanashqualawan, Wananu Aitanashqualawan, Equans, Quatsnala, Eats, Stachwimeltalak. What I'm saying to you is I'm greeting you as all high status people and recognizing your positions of importance, telling you that I bring good thoughts in my mind and good feelings in my heart for this work that we're doing today. And I introduced you to my traditional name. My traditional name, Stachwimeltalak. And Stachwi is the all-encompassing word in the Hunkaminam language for salmon, for fish. And the Meltaluk is the male version of that word. So I was given that name by an assembly of the Stalo and the LFFA, and was really honored to be recognized in that way. I'm here today to also acknowledge the work and the space that has been created, as Mike alluded to, by both the First Nations Fisheries Council and the Pacific Salmon Foundation for this work. As Mike mentioned, we started talking about the need for us, I think it was in the environment of, everybody was getting concerned about the declines, the rapid declines of salmon populations we were seeing. And we saw the provincial government and it wanted to develop its own strategy. The federal government came out and wanted to create its own Pacific Salmon Strategic Initiative, its own strategy. And then when we were working with the Fisheries Council, the leadership, the AFN, the Summit, the Union, and all the chiefs in assembly said, we need a strategy. And what we heard in our Salmon Action dialogues where people were saying, we don't want 3 strategies. We need to learn to work together more effectively. And so it was really creating the space for us to come together and begin to learn how to work more effectively together through the Salmon Action dialogues. I remember telling Mike when we were having that initial conversation, and we were talking about a conference, I said, conferences come and go. Somebody does a findings report, it goes, sits on the shelf, gathers some dust, all of the recommendations, they're held up by lack of funding or resourcing or, I said what we need is something that continues, carries on, and we revisit. So that was the intention of the Salmon Dialogue series, to keep the conversation going, to reconvene, to begin to create something enduring and onward. And I was sitting there thinking earlier, it was funny, I was talking to Brenda Gartner here just when I came in, and I was meeting Kelvin, and I went, oh, Kelvin Dawson, and I know his father. And then I was looking at him and I went, but your father was a young man to me, so, and if he's got a son your age, I'm starting to feel pretty old. So I have retired, Mike, and trying to, but we just had our elections at Musqueam, and I was reflecting on it, and I was honored to be reelected at Musqueam again, and I was reflecting on it. This is 30 years on council, and I was like, geez, that's over half my life on council. So we endeavor to persevere and try to continue to move this conversation. There's nothing more important to us or integral to our identity as Indigenous people as the salmon. It's our identity, it's who we are, it's what we live with and for. And appreciate all of you as salmon warriors to be here today to share that space. So I raise my hands to all of you. Haitsepka, OCM, Haitchika. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Jordan. He is really trying to retire, so in case any of you are going to ask him to do something, he's maybe got a gatekeeper. I'll help him with that. Thank you, Jordan, very much. And just to build on Jordan's point there, we took Jordan's advice to heart 3 years ago, and we being First Nations Fisheries Council and PSF, the Salmon Action Dialogues. And in fact, there will be a Salmon Action Dialogue. This whole thing really is a Salmon Action Dialogue, but tomorrow in particular in the afternoon plenary, we're going to be talking about what we've been doing through those Salmon Action Dialogues around having a coordinated Made in BC plan for salmon recovery that we're all part of. And we're going to be broadening that conversation to those of you that may be new to that conversation, and we're very, very excited about that. At PSF, one of our mottos is that we never go it alone. We believe that the power of salmon is in communities, and that's where we can solve the greatest challenges that we're facing, that salmon are facing. And so as a community with shared objectives to advance salmon recovery and resilience amidst climate change, we believe we're stronger together. So a gathering of this scale takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of support, and I want to just at the outset of this conference acknowledge some people and organizations that have been so critical to making it happen. First, I want to thank Stu Barnes and the team of the First Nations Fisheries Council for your partnership and for playing such a pivotal role in championing this conference, as well as, and this is the first time we've ever hosted this conference, and we're planning to host it every other year, so mark your calendars. We plan to keep this going. But we felt it was important to have a space for our First Nations leaders to come together before the conference, to set the conference off in a good way and to prepare for this conference. And our friends at the First Nations Fisheries Council, I'd like to ask for a round of applause because of the summit yesterday that was held was remarkable. And I want to thank Stu and FNFC for making that happen. I also want to thank James Mack, who's here. I won't make him stand up. He doesn't like a lot of attention. But James Mack's our Assistant Deputy Minister at the province of British Columbia in the Ministry of Water, Land, and Resource Stewardship. And James has been a key partner over the last several years in the Salmon Action Dialogues, but also in supporting this conference. And the province is one of our official sponsors for this conference. They've come to the table for salmon in a huge way in recent years, and James has been a big part of that. So thank you to the province of British Columbia. And I also want to recognize our federal Crown partners from Fisheries and Oceans Canada. I believe we have Susan Chambers here, who's Regional Director of the Pacific Region. Sarah Murdoch with the Pacific Salmon Strategy Initiative. Also from Ottawa, we have Faisal Ghulam Hussain and Josh Wallinder. Faisal's the Chief of Staff to the Minister of Fisheries, Deanne Leboutillier. So we are delighted to have the support, sponsorship, and involvement of DFO. There are many presenters that are here from DFO, and we're thrilled and thank them for their support as well. And as we all well know, salmon do not carry passports or nexus cards. They don't conform to geographic boundaries. And one of our priorities has been to build relationships across borders. And so I'm really pleased that we have a number of people here who are from across different salmon jurisdictions. We have a huge and enthusiastic contingent here from the Yukon. Thank you. Where are our Yukon people? Stand up. I want to recognize our Yukon people. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Great to have you here. You came a long way. We know we have many challenges and shared issues, so we're delighted to have our friends from the Yukon. We are also thankful to have some friends from the U.S., in particular Washington State. Our Salmon Action Dialogues was inspired in part through Washington State. I want to thank Eric Netherland, who's the Executive Director of the Washington State Governor's Office of Salmon Recovery, who is here with us. Eric, stand up so we can thank you wherever you are. Eric's here. Thank you. Tara Galuska is also here from the Governor's Office looking after orca recovery. Tara, stand up, please. Tara, thank you. And I want to thank our very good, long-standing friends in the NGO community from Long Live the Kings, Dr. Jacques White and Shara Ainsley, who are up here from Seattle. Jacques and Shara, I think you're over here. Stand up so we can thank you. They're doing some great things in Washington and have been for the last 20-plus years, so please introduce yourself and welcome our friends from Washington State. I also want to thank some VIPs that we have here from the Canadian and U.S. government. We're delighted to have with us the United States Consul General for Vancouver, Jim DeHart, who's here. Jim, stand up, please. Thank you very much, Jim. Good to see you. And I also want to thank our Canadian Consul General, who's based in Seattle, looks after Washington and Idaho, Craig Weichel. Craig, I hope you're here. I'm not sure if Craig is here, but Craig has been participating in some meetings and will be here a little bit later today. So thank you to both of our Consuls General. And last but not least, I need to thank my bosses. You know, we're an NGO. We have a board of directors of volunteers that help us run our organization. And I'm so thrilled that we have many of our volunteer directors here. And I'm going to introduce them and ask them to stand up because I'd love you to introduce yourself to them as well. I'm delighted that we have Susan Farlinger here, Tim Goodwill, Tom Ethier, and our chair of our board of directors, Jeff Giesbrecht, and one of our great former board members, Brenda Gertner, here as well. So thank you to all of our PSF directors. If we're doing a good job, you can tell them. So this conference has been designed as a space to convene salmon leaders, scientific experts, and field practitioners around the key issues and current advancements that we need to share with each other so we can learn and advance salmon recovery. This space is built for connections and coordinated solutions and actions for salmon recovery and resilience. We're all deeply immersed in the critical work that we're doing. We do for salmon. This work is so important, but we often have our heads down. We're focused on the details of our projects. But I hope that the next few days will give you an opportunity to step back, to relax a little bit, take a breath, enjoy some refreshments, learn from one another, build new relationships, and most importantly, find inspiration in the incredible work that we're all doing. So, to kick that off, to help build some connections, I'd like to ask that we each take a moment to look around the area right around you and try to make some eye contact, find somebody that you don't know, somebody that's new to you. And I'd like you to stand up and introduce yourself to them, tell them where you're from, and let's start making some new connections right now, and I'm going to do it myself. So if you could do that, I'd be grateful. All right. I think this is working out. And now good luck trying to get everyone to sit back down. Well, thank you all very much. If I could ask you to exchange your business cards and have a seat, we'll carry on and get going with the program. I have to tell you that my team wondered whether I should do this. I think we can consider it a success. Okay, folks, if you just have a seat. I love it. I love it. Okay, again, check the box. This is a success. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much. I know that's not easy necessarily. Thank you very much for taking the time to do that. And we're just going to magnify and amplify that many times over the next couple of days. I hope you can tell how excited I am about this conference because I think it's going to be some amazing relationships that are built. Now, we're going to have one more little piece of fun before we get into our plenary discussions. I'm going to ask our great photographer, Ron Sambalan, to come up, and you can all just stay in your seat, but we're going to give him we should give him a wave. We're going to give him a wave, and we're going to do a group photo. Okay, thanks very much. So over the course of the next 2 days, you'll have the opportunity to hear from a variety of salmon leaders on a number of themes. We'll talk a little bit about science and data. We're going to talk a lot about climate change and adaptation for salmon, fisheries, innovations, salmon recovery, resilience, reconciliation, and how, most importantly, we have systems transformation that puts all of us in the driver's seat of the future recovery plans that we need to build for salmon. I also want you to consider that here in British Columbia, there's 450 of us here, mighty and strong, but we regularly do a poll here in BC, and 85% of British Columbians tell us that wild salmon conservation and rebuilding is their #1 environmental priority. So we are here representing lots of people who care very deeply about salmon. You're on the front lines doing the great work, but you're not alone. We've got lots of support for you, and we hope that this conference will convey that to you. This conference also, despite all the talking that I'm doing, and I promise it will end shortly, this conference most importantly is about hearing and listening. We've got 2 ears, 1 mouth. And so we are looking forward to, as people that work in organizations like PSF and FNFC, hearing from you and learning from you. That's what this is all about. We have lots of time built in for networking, for coffee breaks. We have a reception tonight from 4:30 to 6:30 that you're all invited to. So let's make the most of this, learn a lot, but have a great time the next couple of days. So before we move into our speakers for the morning, I have a couple of housekeeping items that I need to bring to your attention. First, I'd like you to all grab your badge, if you would, please, and take a look at it. If you're looking for the Wi-Fi details, that's on the back of the badge. We also will be using Slido for our interactive portions of our plenary discussions. So hopefully you've all seen Slido. If you haven't, it's very easy to use, Slido. So if everybody could just quickly, mostly we say, put your phones away, pay attention. But actually, could you take your phones out? I'd like you to go to slido.com, slido.com. You can even take a picture of this QR code up on the screen. And then once you get into Slido, you need to just fill in our little code for this conference, which is Salmon24, all caps, Salmon24. Now, you'll hopefully see the question that will pop up after you register of what city, town, or First Nation are you joining us from? So fill that in, if you would, and as we fill that in, this Wordle, as you see behind me, is going to grow, and it looks like Slido is working. That's fantastic. Okay, excellent. Wow, look at that. Amazing. Very cool. I think it works. Okay, we're going to try one other, just to get those of you that might be new to Slido, try one other Slido test here for you. This will be a tough one. What is your favorite salmon species? What is your favorite salmon species? We list them all there, and of course, if I were filling this out, I would definitely be saying the don't make me choose option. But okay, great, awesome. Yeah. I had a bet that "Don't Make Me Choose" was going to be the top winner. Okay, great. Everybody's feeling good about Slido? All right, great. Just one more housekeeping item that I have. We also have, while you're on your phones, we have a fantastic app called Eventify. Eventify should be up there, Eventify, Eventify. And if you haven't used the app yet, I really encourage you to download the app. It's the best place to find our conference agenda. It has the speaker bios for all of our sessions, and it has ways to communicate and direct message with each other. You can build your own conference agenda. It's fantastic. So that's Eventify. Now, as I introduce Stu Barnes, Executive Director of First Nations Fisheries Council of BC, I just want to say a few words that we would like to just enhance our recognition of FNFC, which has played a major role in this conference. They are our co-presenting sponsor on this conference, which we are grateful for, Stu. They also hosted the First Nations Summit yesterday, or First Nations Forum, excuse me. I had a chance to peek in during the break, and John Henderson made the comment that It was such a young and youthful and new audience that was there, and it was great for the elders and the young people to be interacting with each other. And that was FNFC's work to bring that forum together yesterday, and I'm grateful for that. They're also going to be leading some breakout sessions on First Nations social cultural values, Indigenous protected and conserved areas, and other topics. They also provided travel bursaries to get a number of our Indigenous leaders here. So they've really been all in on this conference. They are our true partner in this conference. And it has been an absolute pleasure to get to know Stu, the new executive director, over the last year or so. And he's all about bringing people together, and that it's about all of us coming together. So Stu Barnes, come up, please, and thank you for all you're doing for our conference.
Mike, it's such a tough act to follow, roaming around with your TED Talk mic on. To Calvin and Jordan for the land welcome. It's so encouraging to see our youth being involved with knowledge-keeping duties. We spoke yesterday at the summit about the importance of our knowledge keepers and the importance of us trying to include that world into the Western science that we've all learned to be a part of as First Nations in fisheries world. So hamia to Jordan and Calvin, that was a nice way to start today. I simgiget, siganam hanak, unk go Wilson. I'm a Hiluch. I am Stu Barnes. I carry the traditional name of Kildzuk from the House of Dawamuch in the territory of the Gitxsan. I am the Executive Director of First Nations Fisheries Council, and I'm very happy to be here with all of you today. For those of you that don't know me, I started my role as Executive Director earlier this year. I was the former chair of Skeena Fisheries Commission, and I currently serve as a councillor for Anspach's Band in my hometown of Kispiox. Since 2011, FNFC has been committed to supporting First Nations in BC in protecting, reconciling, and advancing their Aboriginal title and rights and treaty rights as they relate to fisheries protection of aquatic resources. We are dedicated to building a stronger, more unified voice for First Nations in BC, ensuring a thriving future for generations to come. We lead by generating knowledge, amplifying voices, and delivering a vision and recommendations to guide decisions and outcomes on fish, water, and habitat. And we can only do the work because of the great relationships and partnerships we have with First Nations who give us our mandate, with First Nations fisheries organizations and with non-Indigenous organizations. We have government-to-government agreements, including the Commitment to Action Accord with DFO and Transport Canada, a MOU with BC, as well as the Trilateral Salmon Accord with both Canada and BC. We also have stakeholder agreements, such as our Commitment to Action with PSF that we just signed last night, a Watershed Security Fund with the Real Estate Foundation of BC, and the Save Our Salmon Coalition. FNFC is committed to advancing sustainable fisheries and aquatic ecosystems by addressing the impacts of climate change, promoting habitat restoration, and developing innovative strategies for resource management. Today, I really want to take a moment to celebrate all the partnerships that make our work successful. And by our work, I mean the work that we, all of us here, and those who could not make it here, are doing to protect the wild Pacific salmon in BC. Our relationship with PSF is a key partnership that we have developed and strengthened over the years. Just the fact that I'm standing here today on the stage at the PSF conference that we co-host is a prime example of how our two organizations are working together. In June of 2023, on BC Wild Salmon Day, the government of BC announced it would provide $15 million to FNFC and PSF to support the recovery of wild Pacific salmon. This is another great example of how our two organizations have worked and will continue to work together collaboratively. PSF is a true champion of reconciliation. By collaborating and partnering with FNFC and including First Nations voices in its work to save wild Pacific salmon, PSF is not just talking about reconciliation, but is actually showing what reconciliation looks like. I want to thank Mike and his team for the leadership and for showing the sector what true partnership looks like. We are so grateful for your dedication and reconciliation and to saving wild Pacific salmon. The work we do would not be possible or successful without powerful relationships like this. Relationship building and collaboration are so important to the work we do at FNFC. Having meaningful engagement and partnerships supports the work in fisheries management. And in fact, one of the pillars of FNFC's next strategic plan is relationship building and collaboration. At FNFC, we aim to create resilient and empowered First Nations communities that are well equipped to navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead of us. Our work to strengthen and advance alliances between First Nations, Crown governments, and non-First Nations organizations will help FNFC continue to advance First Nations jurisdiction and foster unity among diverse First Nations communities in BC, as we have been since our inception. Relationships are incredibly powerful, and in fact, the fact is, we are all stronger together. I gotta learn to pause for those. Collaboration is how we make progress and affect the change that needs to happen to protect our environment, aquatic ecosystems, and frankly, life as we know it. Working together is how we will ensure that wild Pacific salmon remain a vital active component of our First Nations cultures for generations from now. So I'd like to thank all of you for being here and collaborating, engaging, and partnering with us so that we can work together and be successful for the salmon. And we can't do it without all of you here today. So hamaya.
Thank you. Thank you, Stu. I'm going to get you a headset. I want to thank Stu for acknowledging that we did sign a commitment to action last night. That was something that we've been working on for quite a while, and it commits our organizations into the future to continue to work on the Salmon Action Dialogues, the Made in BC model. And I want to congratulate FNFC and for showing leadership in advancing a trilateral accord with both of our Crown governments where First Nations will be in the lead as we build salmon recovery plans and the new salmon management system that we need in BC. So please, a round of applause for our colleagues at FNFC for the successes that you're experiencing. Okay, it's actually time now to get into the conference. Thank you for listening to all those housekeeping items. Thank you for helping us get this conference off to a great start in a good way. I'm now thrilled to move into our keynote speakers. We'll have 3 keynote speakers this morning. We'll have a break in between, and then have a few breakout sessions in the afternoon. Tomorrow morning, you'll come back, and we'll get right into the breakout sessions, and then our we'll have 2 plenaries. The second plenary, closing plenary, will be tomorrow afternoon, where we continue our Salmon Action Dialogue series on how we transform our system to work together towards salmon recovery and resilience. So to get us started with our first plenary keynote speaker today, I'm delighted to welcome to the stage our friend, the U.S. Consul General Jim DeHart, who will introduce our first keynote speaker, Dr. Ann Willis. Jim? Thanks, sir.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see so many here, such a full room. Mike, thanks so much. Really appreciate working with you, with the Pacific Salmon Foundation, and to join you and Stu in this effort. Fantastic. I want to commend you, Mike, on that bold maneuver of having everybody stand. And I think we see that we have an audience here that could break out at any moment into networking, and so that's pretty exciting. I want to thank Jordan and Kelvin as well for the very warm welcome. I think it's a reminder of how essential salmon are to First Nations here and in Yukon, and also to U.S. tribes in Alaska, in the Pacific Northwest on the U.S. side. Really key to life, to health, to morale, and to the future. And I think salmon are key to the identity of British Columbians and all of us in this region more broadly. I think it gets personal very quickly with salmon. And if for anybody who has seen a salmon struggling up a very shallow stream to spawn, doing something that's kind of miraculous, I think I would say it's life-changing, really. So this is such an important endeavor, so we're so happy to be involved from the U.S. Consulate based here in Vancouver. But really my job here this morning is just to introduce one of the keynote speakers. We're so happy to have so many Americans here participating in this event. But let me go ahead with that introduction. So Dr. Ann Willis is here from the state of California. She's the Regional Director of American Rivers, which is a leading NGO working to protect and restore rivers across the United States. Important endeavor. We're very, very pleased at the consulate to be able to sponsor her participation in this event today. I'm really happy to do so because the collaboration across borders on salmon is not just an important thing to do, it's an indispensable thing to do. We have shared watersheds, we have shared impacts of climate change, and so that collaboration is absolutely vital, and Dr. Willis is key to that collaboration today. So let me invite Ann to the stage.